Hi, I'm Jono, and if you're new here, I do pencil drawings. So in this video, I thought I'd try my version of a Draw My Life as a way of introducing myself to any newcomers and to give it a bit of an overview to how I got here today. Also, a huge thank you once again to Squarespace for sponsoring this video, but more about them later. So the accent you can hear is South African. I was born on a farm in South Africa's parliamentary capital city, Pretoria. It was a rather scary entry into the world as my small newborn body began to reject its own blood. And so I was placed in ICU in this chamber thing while they did blood transfusions for me. And I wasn't allowed to be touched for the first 10 days, which might have led to some interesting early infancy trauma or something, who knows. In a strange order of events, my mum, who is also an artist, her studio actually burnt down soon after I was born, which was really sad for her and seems to be a rather cruel metaphor for sacrificing one's career when becoming a mother. As a small child, I couldn't speak English. I could only speak Zulu, one of South Africa's 11 official languages. I'm quite proud of this, and then sad that it slowly wore off as I grew up and entered the education system. Our family moved from Pretoria to Cape Town when I was 9, or not quite Cape Town, but rather a small coastal town called Hermanus, where I went to school. When I was 10, I started to explore drawing. I started to draw members of my family. I remember embarking on a portrait of my grandfather as one of my first drawings that I spent quite a bit of time on, and was pretty proud of it at the time. My mom gave me a wonderful book that still travels with me from studio to studio today, called The Anatomy for the Artist. When she gave this book to me, I was obsessed, and I just did so much studying. I would draw so much from it, and I think that put me in really good stead for the rest of my career. It's kind of falling apart now, but it's a really incredible old book. During this time, I was also playing a lot of music, mostly guitar and singing. I was making some great friends that also loved drawing. We're still friends today, actually. By the time I was 11 and 12, I was experiencing some really hectic bullying at my school. And eventually, when time came to move to high school, I took the opportunity to move towns and actually moved to a small town called Franschhoek. This was a little further away from home, so I was a boarder there for the next 2.5 years. I think it might have been something with going through puberty or something, but I got crippling stage fright that completely floored my ability to play music and forced me to focus more on my drawing skills. My parents then started to feel that I was slipping through the cracks at this school without much attention being paid to specific talents and creativity. I think this was kind of miscommunication with some of the teachers. They interpreted that my severe shyness as me trying to get out of things, I think. Anyway, so my parents got a huge fright when they thought that I wasn't performing as well as I should be, and they wanted me back closer to home. So I moved schools again, and this time to a much smaller school back in my hometown with a really great arts department. Also, the headmistress running the school was particularly interested in kids who kind of needed special attention, I guess, which might have been me. So they were really accommodating for my shyness and also really nurturing for my interest in art, which was really cool. So I was back in my hometown, which was interesting because now I had to face all those old bullies from the primary school once again, but that didn't actually play out as scarily as I thought it did. And on the plus side, I was also back with all my old drawing buddies, which was really, really cool. At the age of 18, there's a set of standardized national exams that everyone has to take. The art exam included a full exhibition, so I showed a bunch of my works and people started asking if they were for sale. And this is kind of the first time a light bulb went off and I was like, art equals potential income. So I think that's the first time I really considered the possibility of pursuing art as a career. After school, I spent some time on a boat off the coast of Namibia to try and save some money to pay for a flight to get me to the UK, where I spent the next year quite miserably in London. And then one day chatting to my mom, who was back in South Africa, and she was saying, don't you want to come home and have an exhibition with me? And this just sounded like an excellent idea. So I started making plans to get back to South Africa. And so I got back and started working towards my first exhibition. I was learning a lot in this stage, but I hadn't quite yet figured out how my art could sustain me. And so I was working on a wine farm and also playing some music in small bars in Hermanus to try and make some extra income to support my art career, which is kind of funny that I was using music to support just another unstable career choice. But yeah, I spent some time on marketing myself and experimenting with social media platforms. By the age of 22, I'd worked up about 2,000 followers on Facebook, where I was able to reach clients and collectors of my work and start saving some money. Things started picking up, and I had some collectors buying my work in the US and Canada. For the first time, I started to think that I might have enough money to make the big trip to Cape Town. And so when I had enough savings, I packed my car with everything I owned and set out in the direction of Cape Town, with only enough to pay for a few months' rent, whilst I found my feet. On my way to Cape Town, I stopped at a friend's place who I stayed with for a couple of weeks, and in this time, my car got stolen, which really sucked, but it didn't really slow me down. I still managed to get to Cape Town, and not having a car didn't really hinder what I was trying to do there anyway. So as a young and rather vulnerable artist, I was really eager to obtain some financial stability. This is where signing with a gallery came in. Unfortunately, this wasn't the best experience. Although some galleries can treat their artists really well and represent their best interests, the gallery I was in was a little bit more interested in just selling art, which in some ways good, but I was just kind of trapped in this agreement, handing over some of my best work without really receiving the exposure for it, which I really needed. This was the Rational Animal series. During this time, I was experimenting a lot and trying to find different ways of getting graphite to go really dark, and so I was playing around with terps. And along with my disillusionment with the art world, this concoction resulted in some pretty dark times in my art journey. I began to explore different avenues more independently, combining my love of video with my drawings. I decided to start recording the process of making my drawings, with which I started my YouTube channel. I also joined Instagram, which quickly overtook my Facebook profile and gave me a pretty solid sense of independence and validation. Through these platforms, I came into contact with an independent collector. Desperate to leave the gallery I was in, I then started to work directly with the collector who managed the sales of my work, promising to introduce my work to a more international exhibition scene and art market. Even though it wasn't exactly where I wanted to be as an independent artist, I felt much freer. My arrangement with the collector provided stability and cash flow, and with that, some new possibilities. I was able to move to my own dedicated studio and really focus on making a business out of my art career. I dedicated more of my time to experimenting with making prints of my work and finding other avenues of trying to make a career out of art, which was really fun but very quickly became overwhelming. In 2017, I traveled to Paris for a project with Nikon eyewear that did a play on the hyperrealism of my work and something around getting your eyes checked. I'm actually not quite sure how that campaign did, but it was a lot of fun. I started shifting my YouTube content to something more educational. This required me to be a lot more involved in the videos. Up until now, I had just been editing the videos myself, which alongside the hours that I needed to dedicate to creating the artworks, started to feel overwhelming. I took the leap and began to hire freelance editors to help me out with this, as well as an assistant to take over some of the correspondence and management of the prints, allowing me to really get my prints off the ground and diversify my income. In 2019, I had a solo exhibition in Vienna, Austria, which I traveled to. It was super exciting and I loved the opportunity to see my work in a different city. I felt as if I was expanding my horizons as an artist. I then applied to study at the Florence Academy of Art, which is a huge dream for me, and I was completely over the moon to have gotten into that course. And then the pandemic hit. I was gutted, and COVID had put me, as it did many artists, in a difficult position. I was paying rent in a studio I didn't have access to. I finally moved my studio to my house and tried to maintain a workflow from home, but was really struggling to keep positive. It was at this point that I hired a friend of mine, Anna, and was able to start dreaming again. We made a great team with a shared vision. From here, there was a rather unexpected and exciting fast growth, and Anna helped me build a wonderful team, and we aimed for the sky. We hired Rubs, our producer and social media manager. Julian came on board as our video editor, and we moved studios out of my house to a beautiful space in the city center. Julian got headhunted and was robbed from us because he's such a badass editor. But then we got Gina, who jumped on board and hit the ground running. Anna held us all together as we began to build a badass production studio that advocated careers in the creative economy. We lost Anna to the UK, but then we got Pam, who had some pretty big shoes to fill, but a whole lot of positivity and a lot of experience in the art world. We've been working hard to create some stimulating content, as well as a healthy working environment for creatives in our city, as well as a studio that's working hard to be self-sustainable and financially independent. This leads to my next big growth point as an artist, which is the decision to take the leap as a fully independent artist, managing the sales and exhibition of my work directly from the studio. This has been a big dream of mine for a long time and gives me a great sense of achievement to have made it to this point. Before I end this video, I just want to give a quick shout out to this video's sponsor, Squarespace. Another big part of my creative journey was actually having a website, and Squarespace were the people to do that for me. I've said it so many times, but it's so important for an artist starting out to have an online portfolio where you can show your work and make it easy for clients to get in touch with you. And for me, I just felt that Squarespace did that effortlessly. I never had to patch or upgrade anything. I could register a domain with them or set up an online store. And most importantly, I could design a portfolio and show my work the way that I wanted to. Also, every time I got stuck, their amazing support team helped me out instantly. So if you're looking at building a website, give Squarespace a try. And if you decide that you love them, use this offer code and get 10% off your first purchase. So that's kind of the whole story. I hope you guys found that interesting. And yeah, leave a like if you did. It helps the channel out in a huge way. As always, thanks for the support, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.